Hey guys, welcome. This morning we're talking about loading a bisque kiln. Bisquing is the first fire. You usually bisque it and you glaze fire. And just to review, we have our green ware where it's still leather hard, you can still work with it. And then you get to bone dry where all the water, you've let it sit, it doesn't have any more water in it. And then it's ready to bisque. And then you bisque it and it gets hard like stoneware or earthenware. And then lastly, you glaze it up. And this is the second fire. So what we're going to talk about today is loading up this kiln because it's a lot less precise. You don't have to make sure there's distance between objects and stuff, distance between vessels when you're loading your kiln. So let's jump into the video and I want to show you how I loaded this yesterday. So I was making some large bowls and then some medium-sized candles. And it's good when you're loading a bisque kiln to have different sizes of stuff. Obviously, you can't fit a ton of big stuff in a kiln, so it's good to have like big stuff with a bunch of small stuff. Okay, so next I need to find out what size kiln post do I need. So the stuff that goes inside the kiln is called the kiln furniture, and these are posts that hold up the shelves inside your kiln. So they come in all different sizes, from little bitty 1/2 inch to 8 inches or so. They come in different widths or thicknesses as well. And if you have a tile saw, a wet saw, you can cut these just like you would tile. Now what I like to do in finding out which size to use is to line them up on opposite sides of a pot and to see, okay, does the pot protrude above that line of sight? If it doesn't protrude above that line of sight, if you have the same size kiln posts on either side of the vessel, you're good to go. So sometimes I'll just have one of those posts sitting out on the table with the different wares to make sure nothing's going above and beyond above that point. Otherwise the shelf would be resting on your bone dry wares. Okay, so I'll put the big stuff in first and then I'll put little things around it or sometimes inside of it. Now you don't want to overload inside of you can stack, things can touch in a bisque kiln. They can't touch in a glaze kiln. If they touch in a glaze kiln, then they are going to touch forever because they're going to be stuck together. But if they touch in a bisque kiln, no big deal. In a bisque fire rather. So I'll fill in all the surrounding areas with smaller wares. You always want your post stacking on top of the other post. Now if you have to move it a little bit here and there, not a big deal. But in general you want all that line of weight going down the same place. Now you see I'm putting one inside of another there and even inside of another. Now you can also stack. You see how I have these reversed stacking. As long as your weight is not putting too much weight on any given place, like you're not going to cause there to be an undue load where it shouldn't be holding a load on the vessels that are lower than it, it's totally fine to stack. You see, this one was going to protrude above the top of the kiln, so I couldn't fit that in. But these others, I can slide that in, no problem. That's probably not too much weight on there. And last but not least, those two little ones there made it out just fine. So that's how you stack a bisque kiln. A bisque fire, you do not need to be really detailed in a bisque fire like you do in a glaze fire that we'll go over next. And that's it. Now I like to make sure my wares are really dried out and then fast bisque, mainly because I don't like waiting. But you can do several things. You can preheat your kiln, which gets it up to about 200 degrees, and then it will hold that for as long as you want to preheat it for. Sometimes I've done that where I've let it preheat for like 4 hours and just like dry the heck out of these greenware pots that are not ready to fire yet, but you can dry them out. Now they say that it's kind of hard on your elements, the coils inside your electric kiln. When you do that, like the moisture that comes out of those vessels that are not bone dry yet hurt the elements somehow. So I don't do that as much. I've done it a lot because I can be a little bit impatient sometimes. But once it's bone dry, I just ramp it up and get them out fast. So, but it's better to slow bisque. It just takes a long time and seems to take a little bit more electricity, from my perspective, but not much. We're not talking more than $5 a fire. So, all right. Hope you enjoyed it.